This video is not for whales and dolphins, it's for you, because you are just like me. Average Gamer here, and today I want to talk to you about the reruns that we're due to get in 1.7. So, in 1.7, we're due to get new characters, Vivian and Hugo, and then alongside them, we are likely to get some rerunning characters too, which will be the older characters from prior patches, but it'll still be our limited S-rank friends. So why should we be thinking about this now? Well, firstly, we're not going to get any additional confirmed information ahead of the 1.7 live stream, so honestly, we might as well start talking about it now. And then secondly, the further ahead that we can plan our pulls, the better that we can then make the most of the polychrome that we are earning as free-to-play or low-spend players. So if we start to think ahead and start to think about, well, if Lighter comes back, then I want to be prepared for that, then making sure you have some polychrome set aside for the potential of that happening is going to be really useful for us to think about when that is likely going to happen. So who are we going to get? And you might think that the answer to this question is pretty obvious. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward, huh? And I think you're probably right. Yeah, I think the most likely outcome is that we get Jane and Caesar as the rerunning characters, because we got Jane back in 1.1 and Caesar was the start of 1.2, I believe, unless I'm messing that up. I'll put a note on screen if I am. And then after that, we then had Bernice, which we've just had rerun, and then we had Yanagi and Lighter. And it feels like Yanagi and Lighter were a little bit too close to where we are right now for us to be considering them for a rerun. So the most likely thing to happen is that we get Jane and Caesar. And honestly, I think the order that we get them in is probably Jane first and Caesar second. Why? Because it makes more sense that way around. From what we know about Vivian, is she's going to be either a quick swap DPS or an off-field anomaly applier. So she'll pair well with an on-field anomaly agent like Jane. And for the other side of things, Hugo is an attack character, an ice attack character, and Caesar basically benefits all attack characters because she can also act as a stun agent as well as a support. So it makes the most sense to run those two together in that situation. And I think that that's honestly around a 90% chance that it's actually even that way around. We get Jane first, we get Caesar second, and that's what happens. But let's crack the door open and let's think about the other potential possibilities that could very well happen. I think there's probably like a 5% chance that they just flip the order around the other way. They do Caesar on the first half with Vivian and Jane on the second half with Hugo. But I don't think that makes that much sense because there's a lot of recency around Jane in the game at the moment. Jane just got a whole bunch of Lost Void kit, and maybe players are going to be playing her and thinking, oh, I'd quite like a Jane, as well as the fact that she's basically the best overworld agent. Or maybe the second best. So there is a real chance, a real shot that that does happen, but I don't see it happening because of how much they're hyping up Jane, and they might want Jane to come back sooner rather than later. Plus, she did run sooner. So again, I'm kind of coming back to that idea of it's like 90% Jane first, Caesar second. But we are not also considering other characters as well. So I think that no matter what happens, we're going to have Jane in the 1.7 reruns. I think that's pretty much set in my mind. But Caesar could very well flip out for someone else. And again, we're talking maybe about a 5% chance here, but if she was going to flip out for someone, I would think that it would be Yanagi or Lighter. And of the two of those, the one that makes the most sense is going to be Lighter, because Lighter could rerun with Hugo. Now, if Lighter does rerun with Hugo, it kind of puts a lot of players in a position where if they wanted Hugo, then Lighter is going to be the best in slot stun agent for Hugo. So it's going to kind of pressure you into getting both of those characters. But I could see them actually just announcing that Lighter is going to rerun in 1.8 or 2.0, basically in the following patch, while Hugo is still on banner. And that kind of gives them a little bit of time, a little bit of leeway that they can play with, because then it's going to mean that people who are maybe on the fence about Hugo from a meta perspective might kind of change their minds a little bit on that, particularly if they're a husbando enjoyer and be like, oh, well, you know, Lighter's coming back next patch, so actually it might make sense for me to pick up Hugo now. And I could see that being the more likely outcome in terms of what they do. I mean, if they were meaner to their free-to-play and low-spend players, then yeah, sure, they could very well just put them both on the same banner. But like I said, Lighter feels too recent to me for us to be getting him that soon. And we're going to get on to talking about the potential of Yanagi rerunning in just a moment. But just before then, this is your reminder that you probably aren't subscribed. Liking and subscribing is a great way to support creators like me on YouTube. You can also drop me a follow over on Twitch if you want to chat about any of this kind of stuff live. And you can join the Discord if you want to hang out with any like-minded, chill Zenless Zone Zero peeps, ask for some help on your builds, provide some help to others. It's a great place to hang out. Back to the video. The other one that we should talk about, though, is Yanagi. Now, if Yanagi is on the second half, which would be the more likely outcome, I think, but if Yanagi was on the second half, it would kind of swing us definitely back into more of an anomaly-focused meta, because within those three agents there, if we have Jane in the first half, we have Vivian in the first half, and then we have Yanagi in the second half, like we're very anomaly-focused at that point. And then there could be an argument to be made, and I guess you could also make this argument as well for Lighter, that if we get Miyabi rerunning in the 2.0 or 1.8 patch, whatever follows 1.7, then it would make a lot of sense to have Yanagi on banner, because there might be a few players who have started playing Zenless Zone Zero who just weren't playing at the time when Miyabi came out. They might have seen Miyabi in game, they might have very well played with her in game because of the Lost Void stuff, and they might be really excited about her, but they can't actually take advantage of Miyabi in game. And then if they're running Yanagi in that second half of 1.7, then when Miyabi crops up for that 1.8 or 2.0 patch, that's going to mean that a whole bunch of players who are maybe on the fence about getting Yanagi because, oh, well, we don't know when Miyabi's going to rerun, that would kind of push them over the edge. You could, as I said earlier, though, you could definitely make that same argument for Lighter as well. All in all, though, I gotta say, I'm coming back to it again. I think it's about a 90% shot that it's Jane in the first half and Caesar in the second. Hey, I mean, honestly, I'd love to be wrong and they just rerun Haramasa or something, but I just don't see it happening right now. I think that there's quite a gap that's kind of formed in terms of where they've started rerunning certain characters, and some of those older characters just haven't got rerun yet. So I think that Jane, definitely it's time for her rerun, and then I think it's going to be Caesar. I do also think, though, that there is something to be said for the unexpected nature of these reruns, both now and also just in general, is that most of the time when Hoyoverse does rerun agents, whether it's in Zenless Zone Zero or, you know, in other Hoyoverse games, they do tend to run them out of order. So as much as it does seem kind of obvious that it should be Jane and Caesar, and like I said, I feel like that's like a 90% shot, and I've said that so many times at this point, I wouldn't be too shocked if they do shock us, if they do bring Lighter in, which would be the shortest timeline between a character initially running and then rerunning, or if they do bring Yanagi in, which would be about okay in terms of the rerun schedule. So yeah, it's definitely up in the air, and I wouldn't be surprised to get surprised, if that makes sense. But anyway, am I right? Am I cooking? Or am I just completely off base with these suggestions and actually I've missed something really obvious? Maybe. But anyway, as always, remember to like and subscribe for better than average stuff in all your pulls. Pull responsibly, stay weird, and remember to drop me a follow over on Twitch. Come join the Discord. It's a fun place. You can chill, hang out. Bye, 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 bye.